Hello everybody, it's Jason Whitney and we're on week 3 of the intuitive lesson. And this week we're going to talk about controlling your hunger by feeding it. That's a little bit of a different concept than what you're normally taught with a diet program, but scientific studies show and psychological studies show that that is absolutely imperative. I got myself some notes here. I'm going to quote some great, exciting information. You know, the studies show that we all have to have certain nutrients to feel and act a certain way. That not only includes physiologically, but also emotionally. In each one of the shakes, we're giving you an equivalent of 32 pounds of nutrients. You physically could not eat that much solid food. And so we are overindulging or overcompensating for the nutrients that you have not been getting over a long period of time. That's why we pack so much in one of the shakes. Now, even the strongest disciplined person, I'm talking about your willpower is legendary. Eventually, the strongest person will diminish. It will weaken over time if you go into a starvation mode. It's not because you're weak. It's not because you don't have the mental clarity or the stamina to stand up to those types of rigors. It's because you have chemical forces working against you at the cellular level. You were programmed not to go into severe starvation. In fact, you were programmed to do almost anything to keep from starving. That is in your DNA. That's the way that you were created. It's not because you're weak. It's because that's who you are. Our goal and our job is to keep you fed every 5 hours, so you never reach that point. Also, our body, the last thing it's going to do is it's going to burn stored fat when it knows that you're in starvation mode. It has to keep vital organs alive. Instead, the last thing it's thinking about is burning stored fat. It wants to keep your brain alive. It wants to keep your heart and your lungs and your liver all alive. And those require energy, and so it's not going to burn stored fat. So let's talk about when we think about the word starvation. Don't we all think about a third world country and the food that we see on the programs that they're allowed to eat, or that they're even having available to eat on a daily basis? It's minuscule, it's frightening, and it's heartbreaking too. Well, when our body faces that type of a physiological reality, we will eventually burn fat, but it's at the risk of burning key muscle fiber. And that's what we don't want to have done. In fact, studies show that most diets in the United States, in fact, all civilized economies, burn 40 to 60% of the weight that's being lost is muscle fiber. That's horrible. In fact, that's why modern doctors are even telling patients, don't go on a diet. Even if you're overweight, even though it's not good for you to have that much weight on, that's not good for you to have that much blood pressure, they fear that if you go on the modern diet as prescribed by most of the companies, that you're going to lose 40 to 60% of your muscle mass. And that is horrific. In fact, studies show, as I quote here, that a loss of 40 to 60% of your muscle fiber will actually increase your chances of premature death by 39%. That's 40% of your life expectancy is going to be diminished because you burned off muscle fiber instead of fat because you wanted to squeeze into a smaller pair of jeans. Now, it's not that you want to get smaller is what I'm critical of. It's how we're doing and what we're willing to sacrifice for it. That same study also found that if you lose weight, if you lose unnecessary and unneeded fat, while not sacrificing muscle fiber, your chances of premature death are decreased and extended by 17%. That's almost a 60% swing. All you have to do is find a diet that does not burn muscle fiber. I got one for you, the one that you're on right now. It's been clinically shown to do exactly that. You're getting your necessary amino acids and you're getting all the other supporting nutraceuticals to give you that foundation not to burn your stored and your connective tissue of muscle. Back in the 1940s, a famous study was done by Dr. Ancel Keys. He took 32 men that had already experienced severe starvation and rough conditions during the war. And he took these men that were known for their physiological stamina, and they put them through a study. They were fed 3,500 calories a day. Now, to give perspective on that, the average man today, not back in 1940, but the average man today consumes 2,500 calories a day. Back in 1940, they consumed about 2,000, 1,900 to 2,100, but average about 2,000 calories. So they were eating half again more than that, more than half again, 3,500 calories. So during this study, they would eat as much as they want, but they had to at least eat 3,500 calories, and then he cut them back to 1,570 calories a day. Not known as the starvation diet. However, because in comparison what their bodies were used to, they felt starved. They were on that program for an extended period of time. 6 months they were on this program. And what we saw is after they reduced the calories to just 1,570, their metabolic clock, their metabolic levels dropped by 40%. Now that's your energy level. That's where you get your boost from. The men were obsessed with food. Their conversations were surrounded around food. Their eating styles changed. Some people would be bulimic, some people would gulp down their food in a frenzy. Some would take 2 hours to eat with their food. Even grown men playing with their food. They'd steal penny candy just to get a chance to get more food into the daily intake. They had episodes of bulimia, as mentioned earlier. They completely felt like they had a loss of willpower. They were given extra food. They were rewarded if they would exercise. Men would exercise purely for the fact of receiving more food. As soon as they reached that criteria, they gave them the reward. They'd stop exercising just so that they could have more calories. It was a very, very critical study in that showed that their actual core personalities changed. They had great increases of apathy, of irritability, their moodiness and depression all increased. Now, does any of this sound familiar? When you are going hungry, when you're on a diet that's not giving you your key nutrients, and that's the key, folks, it's not giving your body the building blocks of what it needs. All you're doing is just going without food. We have these feelings of apathy, of depression, of anxiety, of anger, of irritability. And that's just if we're going for a few hours. We're chemically designed to be that way, but what heightens it in such a short period of time versus true starvation is the fact that now we have these added culprits, these added enemies to us. Things like caffeine, artificial sweeteners, preservatives, and chemicals. They retard our body's ability to read the cues and senses that we were programmed from at the beginning of man. And so the program that I have you on is designed to, in the beginning, to flush you out of all those toxins. That's why you hear me talking about, if I can, let's get you off the coffee. It's not because I have some weird fixation against the coffee. It's the caffeine that's in the coffee. It's not a good chemical for the human body. Any dependent drug that affects your chemical levels and making your cells work differently is not a good thing for us. That's why I don't want you to have it. So this study showed that some very key factors. Now after they were on that, they came back out of the 6-month study, right? And then they put them on a normal eating diet and told them that on the weekends they could eat as much as they want. These men would eat 8,000 to 10,000 calories on the weekends. It took 5 months for them to normalize. They could not feel like they were ever satisfied. Even after eating a full meal and their stomach was completely full, they still felt this compulsion to eat. Have you ever had that feeling? It's not because you're broken. It's not because you're emotionally weak. It is a chemical cue that you're getting. That's what we're trying to overcome, and we're very successful in doing it because we are able to control those chemicals, those hormones that are secreting through your body if you follow the protocol. It's just natural. We're not giving you anything else that you're going to be dependent on. It's just letting your body correct itself. I have had clients where women would, and even some men, one was a night, he would wake up in the middle of the night, though he was sleepwalking, would go to the refrigerator and just eat random things. He'd eat mustard. He'd find food left out in his bed or on the counter, even on the floor, that were strange concoction, raw bacon with mayonnaise on it. He would have cereal that was dry, that was with vinegar. It was just strange concoction. He would literally eat anything and everything that was just in the fridge available. A woman that would felt this need to stash food in her bedroom, not away from height, or away from sight so other people couldn't see, but she'd hide it at work, she'd hide it in her car, she would hide it over at families and friends that she'd regularly go to, because she felt that at some point, at some measure, she might go without food. There wouldn't be enough for her to survive. She'd wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares that these stashes of food would be taken away from her. Is she crazy? No. What that is a chemical preponderance of always thinking about food because of these rituals of diets that we put ourselves through. This is what we're trying to get you away from. That's why one of our taglines is your last diet. We don't want you to be on any other program again. The diet that we want you to be on is intuitive eating, letting your body tell you what you need and should eat. And so follow the protocol, follow the program. Let's get you off of the preservatives and sweeteners. I want you to go through lesson 3. There's a bunch of questions there. Check them off, answer them honestly, and talk about, if you have a close friend or a relative or a significant other, talk about those issues with you, and you will be surprised to find out that you're not the only one that has these crazy ideas. Until next time, thank you, and see you later.